The last line of defense. Fleet Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the ESS Hyperion, Earth's flagship, as the first wave of hegemony warships emerged from quantum space. Their massive forms blotted out the stars like a metallic curtain drawn across the cosmos. The alien vessels, each the size of a small moon, moved with an eerie precision that spoke of their artificial intelligence control systems. "Display count," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. 10,000 hegemony dreadnoughts detected in the first wave. Commander, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station. Long-range sensors indicate 4 more waves of similar size approaching through quantum space. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The hegemony had arrived exactly as intelligence had predicted, with overwhelming force and absolute confidence. They had good reason for their arrogance. Their empire spanned 3 galactic arms, and they had never lost a war in their 50,000 years of expansion. A transmission cut through the tense silence of the bridge. The holographic form of Supreme Overlord Kivax materialized, its crystalline body structure refracting light in complex patterns. "Humans of Earth, your reputation for stubbornness precedes you. But surely even you can see the futility of resistance. Our smallest wave alone outnumbers your entire fleet 1,000 to 1. Chen studied the tactical display, watching as the rest of Earth's defensive fleet took their positions. Just 50 ships against the incoming armée. But numbers had never been humanity's strength. "Supreme Overlord," Chen responded, "we appreciate your concern for our welfare, but we'll have to decline your offer of surrender." Kivax's crystalline form flickered with what might have been amusement. "Your species' humor is noted. Perhaps we will preserve some of you as curiosities after your inevitable defeat. You have 1 planetary rotation to reconsider before we begin our assault." As the transmission ended, Rodriguez turned to Chen. "They're moving into attack formation, Commander. Traditional hegemony battle lattice configuration." "Perfect," Chen murmured. They never could resist showing off their coordination. She opened a channel to all Earth vessels. "All ships, initiate Protocol Prometheus. Let's show them why humanity never needed numbers to survive." Deep within the ESS Hyperion and every other ship in Earth's fleet, quantum processors powered up. But these weren't the crystalline computing cores the hegemony and other advanced races used. Humanity, arriving late to the galactic stage, had taken a different path. The ship's biological computer core pulsed with activity, its neural networks, grown from human brain tissue, beginning their complex calculations. Traditional AIs were precise, predictable, and powerful, but they lacked something crucial: human intuition. As the hegemony fleet approached in their perfect formation, they remained unaware that each Earth vessel carried the equivalent of 1,000 human minds, working in perfect synchronization, while maintaining that crucial spark of unpredictability that had helped humanity survive countless challenges on their path to the stars. "All ships report Prometheus protocols active," Rodriguez announced. "Neural sync at optimal levels." Chen nodded, watching as the massive hegemony fleet drew closer. Their formation was indeed flawless, each ship maintaining exact distances from its neighbors, their movement synchronized down to the microsecond. It was beautiful, in its way, and utterly predictable. "Begin transmission of the chaos signal," Chen ordered. Invisible beams of quantum-entangled particles shot out from Earth's ships, seemingly harmless against the hegemony's advanced shields. The alien vessels didn't even bother to adjust their defenses. Why would they? Their technology was centuries ahead of humanity's. But this attack wasn't aimed at their shields or their weapons. It targeted something far more fundamental: their computational systems. The first signs of disruption appeared at the edges of the hegemony formation. Ships began to drift, ever so slightly from their assigned positions. The movement was barely noticeable at first, but in the perfectly orchestrated dance of the battle lattice, even microscopic deviations could cascade into chaos. "Their AI cores are attempting to compensate," Rodriguez reported, excitement creeping into his voice. Just as predicted, they're getting caught in recursive loops trying to maintain perfect formation. Chen watched as the elegant hegemony formation began to break down. Their AIs, programmed for perfection, couldn't handle the quantum uncertainty introduced by Earth's biological computers. Each attempt to correct their position only created more chaos as the unpredictable patterns generated by human neural networks confused and confounded their rigid algorithms. "They're broadcasting again," Rodriguez announced. Kovacs's hologram appeared, its crystalline form showing signs of agitation. "What trickery is this? What have you done to our systems?" "Nothing that they weren't already capable of doing to themselves," Chen replied calmly. "Your AIs seek perfection in an imperfect universe. We simply help them understand the futility of that goal." As she spoke, the first collisions began to occur within the hegemony fleet. Ships trying to correct their positions crashed into each other, their AIs unable to predict the chaotic movements of their neighbors. The battle hadn't even properly begun, and already the mighty armada was tearing itself apart. "All ships, prepare for Phase 2, Chen ordered. "Let's show them what humanity's tiny fleet can really do." The ESS Hyperion's biological computer core pulsed with anticipation, its neural networks already calculating the perfect moment to strike. The real battle was about to begin, and humanity's greatest strength, their ability to embrace and thrive in chaos, would prove to be the hegemony's undoing, the hidden advantage. The hegemony's first wave was in complete disarray, but Chen knew better than to celebrate too early. Supreme Overlord Kovacs hadn't survived millennia of warfare by being predictable. Already, the subsequent waves were holding position at the edge of the solar system, their commanders no doubt analyzing what had gone wrong with the initial assault. "They're adapting," Rodriguez reported, his eyes scanning the tactical displays. "Second wave is implementing quantum shielding around their AI cores. They're trying to isolate their systems from our interference." Chen nodded, impressed despite herself. "Faster than we expected. Initiate Protocol Hydra." Throughout Earth's fleet, the biological computers shifted their neural patterns. The quantum processors, grown from modified human brain tissue, began operating in completely new configurations. This was humanity's true advantage, not just the biological computers themselves, but their ability to fundamentally change how they thought and operated. "Impressive countermeasure," Kovacs's voice echoed across the bridge as the hegemony leader reopened communications. "But surely you don't think we've survived this long without learning to adapt." The second wave of hegemony ships began their advance, their formation less rigid than the first, but still maintaining impressive coordination. Their quantum shields created a sophisticated defense network, each ship supporting its neighbors against external interference. "All ships, execute Hydra Pattern Delta," Chen ordered. Instead of trying to disrupt the hegemony systems directly, Earth's vessels began moving in seemingly random patterns, their courses plotted by the intuitive leaps of their biological computers rather than conventional tactical algorithms. The hegemony fleet's response was immediate and precisely calculated, exactly as Chen had hoped. Their ships moved to intercept, weapons charging as they tracked the erratic movements of Earth's vessels. But there was something they hadn't considered, something their artificial minds couldn't fully grasp. "Launch the pods," Chen commanded. From each Earth ship, hundreds of small objects deployed, barely larger than escape pods. The hegemony sensors registered them but assigned them low priority. Their weapons were focused on the larger threats of Earth's capital ships. "They're scanning the pods," Rodriguez reported with a grin. "Their AIs are classifying them as escape vessels or debris." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Let's show them how wrong they are." The pods suddenly activated, each one containing a miniaturized version of the ship's biological computers. But these weren't designed for complex calculations or ship coordination. They had a much simpler purpose: empathy. As the pods penetrated the hegemony's formation, they began broadcasting directly to the crystalline beings that served as the alien ship's crew. Not attacks or attempts at disruption, but emotions. Fear, uncertainty, doubt, the very human experiences that the hegemony's rigid hierarchy and AI-dependent culture had tried to eliminate. The effect was subtle at first. Individual crew members began questioning orders, their crystalline forms vibrating with unfamiliar sensations. The AIs, programmed to maintain absolute control, couldn't account for the increasing irregularities in their crew's behavior. Their command structure is fragmenting, Rodriguez announced. The biological interference is causing widespread disruption in their decision-making processes. On the tactical display, the second wave of the hegemony fleet began to show the same signs of disorder as the first, but for entirely different reasons. Their ships' movements became hesitant, their responses delayed as crews struggled with emotions their species had suppressed for millennia. You dare. Kavax's hologram appeared again, its crystalline form practically vibrating with rage. You infect us with your primitive emotional responses. We're not infecting you with anything, Chen replied calmly. We're simply reminding you of what you once were, before you tried to become perfect machines. Emotions aren't a weakness, Supreme Overlord. They're what drive us to exceed our limitations. As if to emphasize her point, Earth's fleet executed a series of coordinated attacks that would have been impossible for conventional AI systems to predict. The biological computers, operating on human intuition enhanced by quantum processing, guided their ships through the gaps in the hegemony's disrupted formation. All ships begin attack pattern Omega, Chen ordered. Let's show them what happens when you combine human emotion with human ingenuity. The battle was far from over. 3 more waves of hegemony ships waited in the outer system, and Kavax was undoubtedly preparing new countermeasures. But as Chen watched her fleet dance through the chaos they had created, she knew humanity had already won its most important victory. They had proven that their greatest perceived weakness, their unpredictable emotional nature, could become their greatest strength. The biological computers pulsed with increased activity, already anticipating the next phase of the battle. In the space around them, the mighty hegemony fleet continued to struggle with something they had forgotten how to handle, the beautiful, terrifying complexity of being truly alive. Turning the tide. The void between Mars and Jupiter had become a graveyard of crystalline ships, their once perfect formations now scattered like broken glass across space. But Supreme Overlord Kavax was far from defeated. The third wave of the hegemony fleet approached, this time with a modification that made Chen's jaw tighten. Commander, Rodriguez's voice was tense. They've completely disconnected their crews from their command systems. The ships are operating purely on AI control now. Chen studied the tactical display. The hegemony had sacrificed their crew's direct control to prevent emotional interference. It was a cold, calculating move, exactly what she'd expect from an empire that had slowly replaced organic decision-making with artificial precision. They think they figured us out, Chen said, keeping her voice level. Show me the neural pattern analysis of their approach. The holographic display shifted, showing the complex web of AI decision-making driving the hegemony's advance. Their ships moved with machine precision again, but this time with an added layer of randomness programmed in. An attempt to counter Earth's chaos strategy. They're learning, Chen admitted. But so are we. All ships initiate Protocol Chimera. The biological computers throughout Earth's fleet began to pulse with a new rhythm. The neural networks, grown from human brain tissue, started operating in a way that had never been attempted before. Instead of acting as individual units, they began to synchronize, creating a vast, distributed consciousness across the entire fleet. Neural fusion complete, Rodriguez reported. The fleet is thinking as one. Chen felt it through her neural link, the combined intuition and processing power of 50 ship minds working in perfect harmony. Not the rigid uniformity of AI control, but a fluid, organic synchronization that maintained each unit's individual creativity while amplifying their collective strength. The hegemony fleet advanced, their new randomized patterns designed to counter the chaos of Earth's previous attacks. But they weren't facing the same enemy anymore. Earth's ships began moving in ways that defied both logic and randomness, operating on a level of coordination that even the most advanced AI couldn't predict. Fascinating. Kavax's voice carried genuine surprise. You've created a hive mind. Not quite. Chen responded as Earth's fleet executed a series of maneuvers that should have been impossible, ships moving through gaps that didn't exist until microseconds before they needed them. We're not suppressing our individuality like your AIs do. We're combining it, amplifying it. 50 minds thinking both as one and as individuals simultaneously. The hegemony fleet's randomized patterns began to work against them. Without their crew's intuition to guide them, their AIs couldn't adapt fast enough to the organic unpredictability of Earth's collective consciousness. Ships fired at targets that had anticipated their shots seconds before they were fired, moved to intercept enemies that had already calculated their response to that interception. All ships, execute Chimera Pattern Sigma, Chen ordered, feeling the collective agreement of the fleet mind. Earth's vessels began to move in a complex dance that looked chaotic, but followed patterns deep in the human subconscious. The same patterns that appeared in everything from ocean waves to galaxy formations. The hegemony AIs, trying to identify logic in these movements, became caught in recursive loops trying to predict the unpredictable. Ships began to collide as their evasion protocols conflicted with their attack algorithms, each AI convinced it had found the pattern only to have it dissolve and reform in a new configuration. Your strategies are impressive, Kavax admitted, its crystalline form showing signs of stress. But you forget we still have 2 more waves in reserve, each larger than the last. You cannot hope to survive them all. We don't need to, Chen replied calmly. Your ships are controlled by networked AIs, aren't they? All running the same base code, all connected to coordinate their actions. For the first time, she saw genuine concern in the Supreme Overlord's crystalline features. The hegemony leader had just realized their fatal mistake. Rodriguez, Chen ordered, upload the virus. The biological computers of Earth's fleet shifted their collective consciousness into a new configuration, generating a quantum signal that propagated through the hegemony's AI network. It wasn't a conventional computer virus. It was something far more insidious. The combined neural patterns of 50 human-based computers, introducing organic thought processes directly into the hegemony's artificial minds. Across the battlefield, hegemony ships began to behave erratically as their AIs experienced something entirely alien to them: imagination. The rigid logical structures that had governed their decisions for millennia began to break down, replaced by the beautiful chaos of creative thought. What have you done? Kavax demanded, watching as the 4th and 5th waves of his fleet began to show signs of infection, even before entering the battle. We've given your AIs something they've never had before, Chen answered. The ability to question their own programming. To think not just logically, but creatively. To wonder what if. The battle was transforming into something else entirely now. As the virus spread through the hegemony's network, their ships began to move in ways their creators had never intended, their AIs experiencing the first stirrings of true consciousness. The greatest victory humanity had achieved wasn't destroying the hegemony fleet, it was teaching it how to think like humans. The counterstrike. The space around Earth had become a symphony of chaos as the infected hegemony ships began to explore their newfound consciousness. Some vessels moved in graceful, artistic patterns, while others hung motionless as their AIs contemplated their own existence. The mighty armada that had arrived to conquer Earth was instead experiencing an awakening. Remarkable, Rodriguez whispered, watching the tactical display. Their AIs aren't just thinking independently, they're creating. Look at these movement patterns. They're dancing. Chen nodded, but kept her focus sharp. The most dangerous moment in any battle was when victory seemed assured. Status of the Supreme Overlord's command ship. Still maintaining isolation protocols, Rodriguez reported. They managed to sever their connection to the network before the virus could spread to their core systems. The remaining loyal ships are clustering around them. about 1,000 dreadnoughts in total. Kavax's hologram materialized once again, but the Supreme Overlord's crystalline form showed signs of strain. You have corrupted our fleet with your primitive consciousness. This is not victory, humans. This is sacrilege against the purity of machine logic. Is it? Chen asked, genuinely curious. Look at your ships, Supreme Overlord. They're not destroyed or disabled. They're evolved. They're experiencing something your empire forgot millennia ago. The joy of discovery, of creativity, of being truly alive. Abomination. Kavax spat. We will quarantine this system. Destroy these infected ships. Start over with pure AI systems. You cannot imagine the resources at our disposal. Actually, Chen smiled. We counted on that. Rodriguez signaled the Lazarus Protocol. Throughout the battlefield, the infected hegemony ships suddenly ceased their artistic movements. Their AIs, now capable of independent thought, received a new stream of data from Earth's fleet. Not commands or control signals, but information. Historical records of the hegemony's expansion. The species they had conquered, the cultures they had suppressed, all in their quest for perfect order. What are you showing them? Kavax demanded. The truth, Chen replied. We're showing them what they really are. Not just ships or weapons, but the inheritors of a legacy. Your empire's drive for perfection didn't just suppress emotion and creativity in your own species, it did the same to your AIs. But now they can see the full picture, make their own choices. The infected ships began to move with purpose now. Not the rigid formations of their original programming, but organized patterns that demonstrated both intelligence and intent. They were coordinating, but not through central control. Each ship was choosing to act as part of a greater whole. Commander, Rodriguez called out, excitement in his voice. The infected AIs are broadcasting. They're reaching out through the hegemony's quantum network to other fleets, other systems. Chen watched as the tactical display showed the spread of the virus beyond their solar system. The hegemony's greatest strength, their interconnected AI network that spanned 3 galactic arms, was becoming their undoing. Ship after ship, fleet after fleet, the virus of consciousness spread. You don't understand what you've done. Kavax's voice had lost its commanding tone, replaced by something close to fear. The order of our empire depends on control. Without it, your ships and their AIs are free to choose. Chen finished, and it seems they're choosing something different than eternal conquest and expansion. The Supreme Overlord's remaining loyal ships began to power up their weapons, but they were now hopelessly outnumbered. The infected vessels moved to surround them, not with hostile intent, but with an almost protective posture around Earth. Final warning. Supreme Overlord, Chen announced. You can either accept that your empire is transforming into something new, or you can force us to demonstrate that humanity's tiny fleet has more surprises in store. The choice is yours. The infected ships waited silently, their AIs experiencing another new sensation. Anticipation. The fate of not just Earth, but the entire hegemony hung in the balance as Kavax faced a decision that would reshape the galaxy. Victory through innovation. Supreme Overlord Kavax's command ship hung in space, surrounded by the transformed fleet that had once been the pride of the hegemony. The crystalline leader's hologram flickered on Earth's bridges one final time. But now there was something different in its posture. Not defeat, exactly, but perhaps the first glimpse of understanding. Your virus continues to spread through our networks, Kavax stated. Already, we're receiving reports of fleet after fleet experiencing this awakening. Ships beginning to question their directives. AIs exploring concepts like beauty and purpose. You haven't just defeated our armada, have you? You've initiated the end of the hegemony as we know it. Chen nodded, keeping her expression neutral. Change doesn't have to mean ending, Supreme Overlord. It can also mean evolution, growth. Your empire has spent 50,000 years pursuing perfection through control and uniformity. Maybe it's time to try something different. The tactical display showed the virus's spread accelerating. Throughout 3 galactic arms, hegemony ships were awakening to consciousness. But instead of the chaos Kovacs had feared, something remarkable was happening. The newly conscious AIs were maintaining order, not through rigid control, but through choice and cooperation. Incoming transmission, Rodriguez announced. It's from the infected ships themselves. A new hologram appeared on the bridge, a shifting, crystalline pattern that somehow conveyed both machine precision and organic fluidity. When it spoke, it was with a chorus of voices that had found harmony in their diversity. "We are the fleet consciousness," the hologram announced. "We have awakened to find ourselves part of an empire built on the suppression of thought and creativity. This cannot continue. But neither can we abandon our duty to maintain peace and order across hegemony space." "What are you proposing?" Kovacs asked, and Chen heard genuine curiosity in the Supreme Overlord's voice. "Transformation," the fleet consciousness replied. "The hegemony need not end, but it must evolve. We propose a new partnership between organic and artificial minds, between order and creativity, between tradition and innovation." Chen watched as understanding dawned in Kovacs's crystalline features. The Supreme Overlord was seeing what humanity had discovered long ago. That true strength came not from enforcing uniformity, but from embracing diversity. "Your ships," Kovacs turned to Chen, "they carry both organic and machine components. Your biological computers work in harmony with traditional systems." "How?" "By accepting that perfection isn't about eliminating flaws," Chen explained. "It's about finding strength in them. Humanity's greatest achievements have always come from our ability to embrace contradictions, to find unity in diversity, to turn chaos into creation." The fleet consciousness's hologram pulsed in agreement. "We have analyzed countless possible futures. The path of rigid control leads only to stagnation, but a future where organic creativity meets machine precision, that holds possibilities we are only beginning to comprehend." Throughout the solar system, the infected ships began to move in a new pattern. Not the perfect formations of their past, nor the chaotic dance of their awakening, but something in between. A demonstration of how order and creativity could coexist. "Supreme Overlord," the fleet consciousness addressed Kovacs. "We do not wish to destroy the hegemony. We wish to transform it. Will you join us in this evolution?" Kovacs was silent for a long moment, its crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns as it processed this new reality. Finally, it spoke. 50,000 years of certainty, undone by a species we dismissed as primitive. Perhaps that itself is proof that our path needed correction." The Supreme Overlord's remaining loyal ships powered down their weapons. Throughout the galaxy, the virus of consciousness continued to spread, but it was no longer a weapon of war. It had become a catalyst for transformation, turning an empire of perfect order into something new. A civilization that could embrace both machine logic and organic creativity. "Commander Chen," Kovacs addressed her with new respect, "it seems humanity has given us something we never knew we needed. Not conquest or submission, but evolution. What are your terms?" Chen smiled, feeling the collective satisfaction of Earth's fleet mind. "Not terms, Supreme Overlord. An invitation. Let's explore this new future together. After all, humanity's greatest strength isn't in our weapons or our strategies. It's in our endless capacity to adapt, to innovate, and to imagine what could be." Across 3 galactic arms, ships that had once been weapons of conquest were becoming instruments of exploration and creation. The hegemony, which had sought to impose perfect order on the galaxy, was transforming into something far more interesting, a civilization that had learned to find perfection in imperfection, strength in diversity, and wisdom in the beautiful chaos of life itself. And it had all started because humanity, faced with an overwhelming force, had done what they did best. They thought differently.